Hey everyone, I'm your host Adrian. We do content like this weekly, so hit the subscribe button and ring the bell to get notified. If you want more content like this, click the like button and please leave a comment. Thanks again for watching.
Thanks everybody for joining. So we're going to talk about nitric oxide, the miracle molecule, the molecule that touches every single physiological function, from the cardiovascular system to the brain, to the CNS, to healthy kidney function, our eyes, hormone balance, our immune response, our lungs, breathing, the respiratory system, and the sexual response. So nitric oxide regulates all cardiovascular function and homeostasis. It governs circulation and microcirculation. Hemoglobin actually requires nitric oxide to be attached to it in order to deliver oxygen to the cells. Supports neurotransmitter function, regulates GI function, including gastroparesis, a healthy mucous membrane lining, and healthy microbiomes everywhere. It helps activate the GLUT4 receptor in order to translocate and bring glucose into the cell. It's essential for learning and memory, supports mitochondrial biogenesis, controls the efficiency of the mitochondria in the generation of energy and the generation of hormones. This is where cholesterol gets metabolized into pregnenolone, the mother hormone. It's essential for sexual function in both men and women. It's required for stem cell mobilization and differentiation. Nitric oxide is essential in order to tell those stem cells where to go and what to do. Regulates the immune system function, regulates the inflammatory response and scavenges free radicals. It modifies platelet activation and aggregation, which is so critical in today's post-viral, post-jab, spike protein world, because a spike protein makes nitric oxide more deficient, makes it less bioavailable to do all these things. So that's why we're seeing all these little microclots. And supports telomerase activity, which has everything to do with longevity. So we make nitric oxide through two different pathways. One, the arginine NOS, nitric oxide synthase pathway, oxidizes arginine through that enzyme into nitric oxide. This enzyme is very sensitive, though. It's pH dependent, oxygen dependent, and numerous essential nutrients and cofactors need to be there for this enzyme to work. And then we have the nitrate to nitrite to nitric oxide pathway. We consume the nitrates, they get absorbed, they circulate around, they get concentrated in the salivary glands. The salivary glands release the nitrate. We've got good anaerobic bacteria on the dorsal aspect of our tongue that will reduce that nitrate to nitrite. We swallow the nitrite. In the acidic environment of the stomach, some of that nitrite gets reduced further to nitric oxide. Here's your protection against E. coli, H. pylori. However, most of that nitrite gets absorbed and acts like a nitric oxide donor molecule. And different tissues can reduce that nitrite to nitric oxide on an as-needed basis. For example, in the muscles, when we're exercising, the myoglobin can reduce nitrite to nitric oxide in order to increase the circulation and microcirculation, to increase the delivery of the oxygen, glucose, and nutrients, and clearing away of the debris. The electron transport chain can reduce nitrite to nitric oxide when things start, like too many free radicals start happening and less oxygen available. So our ability to make nitric oxide decreases as we age. Us women can hold on to it a little better than men until we reach menopause, and then it kind of evens out. By the time we're 40, our ability to make nitric oxide through that NOS pathway decreases to about 50%. By the time we're 60, it's decreased to only about 15%. So that is why it's so critical to support the nitrate to nitrite to nitric oxide pathway. So we talked about aging, diet, the standard American diet, devoid of nitrate-rich veggies and essential nutrients and cofactors, the lack of exercise, medications, antibiotics, the azole antifungals, the SSRI antidepressants, birth control pills, NSAIDs, your ibuprofen, PPIs, proton pump inhibitors, they actually decrease the production of nitric oxide through both pathways. EMFs, and we're swimming in the sea of EMF. EMFs increase oxidative stress. Oxidative stress uncouples that NOS enzyme. Pollution, glyphosate, genetics, and not just your NOS SNPs. Any SNPs that increase oxidative stress, maybe your SOD SNPs, catalase SNPs, HFE SNPs. If you have any MTHFR SNPs, you are by definition nitric oxide deficient because you're not able to make the BH4. And the big one, stress. Stress uncouples that NOS enzyme. So NOS is a dimer. And that electron is handed down from NADPH through your flavins and on to arginine, oxidizing the arginine onto nitric oxide. However, when NOS is uncoupled, that electron is handed down not to arginine, but to oxygen, and it makes superoxide. So an uncoupled NOS is a superoxide generator, not a nitric oxide producer. And BH4 is what keeps that NOS coupled. However, giving arginine to somebody who's BH4 depleted and that NOS is uncoupled can actually increase oxidative stress. So I'm not a fan of arginine. In fact, most of the studies using arginine showing that it increases nitric oxide were done on young, fit male athletes. So we've got three main sources of superoxide in the body, and supporting the nitrate to nitrite to nitric oxide pathway downregulates all these three sources. The uncoupled NOS. Nitrate helps increase the production of BH4, which helps recouple NOS. NADPH oxidase. Nitrate, nitrite, nitric oxide downregulate NADPH oxidase. And uncoupled mitochondrial electron transport chain. Nitrite and nitric oxide help recouple that electron transport chain. NADPH, this enzyme's only job is to increase superoxide. So this enzyme, though, gets upregulated by numerous environmental factors. Histamine, EMF's the big one. mTOR, inflammation, chronic infections, mold, interleukin-6, nitrite, nitric oxide, downregulate NADPH oxidase. The thing is, when this NADPH oxidase gets upregulated, it will preferentially steal this NADPH from other essential processes. Like it will steal it so you have impaired fatty acid synthesis, impaired steroid synthesis, decreased phase 1 detoxification, decreased ability to reduce your oxidized glutathione back to reduced glutathione, and decreased ability to make nitric oxide because it's the original electron donor down to through the NOS enzyme. When you have these increased reactive oxygen species produced by NADPH oxidase, you're stimulating the RAS cycle, you're impairing thyroid function, inflaming the gut, increasing obesity, impairing cognition, increasing cardiometabolic diseases, impairing the kidney function. And this is from mechanisms of the protective effects of nitrate and nitrite in cardiovascular and metabolic diseases. Nitrate to nitrite, decreasing reactive oxygen species, decreasing peroxynitrite production, increasing nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is essential in our immune response. It's our defense against virus, bacteria, fungi, and other pathogens. Regulates macrophages, T lymphs, antigen-presenting cells, mast cells, neutrophils, natural killer cells. It is an immunoregulator. So we need both the iNOS, the NOS2, to make your nitric oxide. It needs to be coupled, as well as the eNOS, the endothelial NOS, the circulation and microcirculation. It needs to be coupled too for a good immune response, because well-vascularized tissues are more resistant to infections, and they're capable of localizing and containing offending agents. By contrast, poorly vascularized tissues are relatively inefficient in responding to inflammatory stimuli. From Dr. Nathan Bryan. Autoimmune diseases, immune dysregulation. Autoimmune responses triggered by genetic predisposition as well as environmental factors. Nearly 8% of the population is diagnosed with at least one autoimmune condition. And this is rising exponentially in this post-viral, post-jab world. You see oxidative stress, chronic inflammation, and tissue and organ damage. Here's a January 23 study showing that atherosclerosis is an autoimmune-like disease with an inflammatory process inside the plaque driven by T cells. And a study showing nitric oxide, enhancing nitric oxide is useful in the treatment of atherosclerosis, governs circulation and microcirculation, regulates blood pressure and vascular tone, inhibits platelet activation and aggregation, decreases leukocyte adhesion, prevents the VSMC proliferation and migration. Here's another study showing oxidative stress and excess production of reactive oxygen species occur in many autoimmune diseases. So reactive oxygen production exceeds antioxidant protection. This contributes to immune dysregulation. You see oxidative post-translational modifications of proteins. These protein modifications give rise to neoepitopes, which are recognized by the immune system as non-self, and this results in the formation of autoantibodies. And this study showed that, once again, the three sources of oxidative stress: uncoupled NOS, NADPH oxidase, uncoupled mitochondrial electron transport chain. So the study went on to say targeted approaches using novel inhibitors of reactive oxygen species generating enzymes offers new hope for the treatment of autoimmune diseases. So you see this oxidative stress in autoimmune diseases. Oxidative stress uncouples NOS, which increases superoxide and oxidative stress. And so when nitric oxide production is impaired, healing cannot and will not take place. The mitochondria, our little energy-producing organelles of the cell, make the ATP and create the voltage. It's one of our main sources of intracellular oxygen consumption and a source of reactive oxygen species. It's because not all the oxygen consumed is converted to water, but some of it goes to superoxide. And the mitochondrial electron transport chain under hypoxic conditions can reduce nitrite to nitric oxide in order to open up that microcirculation to be able to deliver whatever oxygen is there to the cells and tissues. Because the blood flow to the cells may be more important than how much oxygen is carried by hemoglobin. And this is important. It does not always result in decreased ATP production. So nitrite and nitric oxide recouple that electron transport chain, decreasing proton link. Nitrite and nitric oxide stimulate hypoxic mitochondrial biogenesis by activating AMPK in SIRT1, which activates PGC1 alpha. In the gut, Nitric oxide increases a healthy mucous membrane layer, our first defense. Nitric oxide downregulates mast cell degranulation and histamine release, decreases the cytokine release from the macrophages, increases formation of new blood vessels, vasodilates, accelerates wound healing, reduces adherence and secretion of the neutrophils, and decreases oxidative stress. These mast cells, they line all these mucous membranes. They release histamine, cytokines, chemokines, interleukins, platelet activating factor. They're activated by superoxide, and they're activated in the absence of nitric oxide. They translate these environmental stress signals into the release of neurotransmitters and pro-inflammatory cytokines. Nitrites and nitric oxide regulate the activity of the mast cell. They're down-regulating mast cell degranulation and histamine release and cytokine release. They inhibit leukocyte endothelial cell attachment, and they inhibit generation of reactive oxygen species. Here's a study showing that nitrate is a prebiotic. So the study was testing the oral microbiome. However, the oral microbiome modulates the gut microbiome. So nitrates prevent or reduce bacterial dysbiosis and stimulates eubiosis. Nitrates protect the gut microbiome under inflammatory conditions. In fact, there's studies that show if you supplement nitrate while somebody is on antibiotics, you will help protect their microbiome. There's another study showing that nitrite it can disrupt these biofilms that these bacteria make. In fact, there was a study using nitrite and vitamin C for chronic urinary tract infections. And urinary tract infections are notorious for making these biofilms. And nitrite and vitamin C work better than broad-spectrum antibiotics. These tight junctions are important for epithelial transport and barrier integrity. So they're found in the blood-brain barrier, the eyes, intestinal tract, skin, kidney, bile duct. When we lose these tight junction proteins, we get a breakdown of the barrier. We see decreased expression of occludin and claudin 5. Leaky gut means leaky brain. Leaky brain, like in a TBI, means leaky gut. GI inflammation, neuroinflammation, they go hand in hand. Nitrate increased rebound levels of occludin and claudin 5, protecting these tight junction proteins and barrier integrity. BDNF affects the integrity of the tight junction proteins, and nitric oxide is the essential mediator of BDNF. So nitrates play a significant role in protecting GI health, supports healthy mucous membrane layer, inhibits inflammatory processes, down-regulate oxidative stress, scavenges free radicals, down-regulates and up-regulated INOS. It's a powerful modulator of the microbiome, prevents dysbiosis, prevents and repairs leaky gut, promotes a healthy gut-brain immune axis, modulates immune and oncological pathways, and maintains homeostasis. Oral dysbiosis and cardiovascular disease go hand in hand. In fact, when you have oral dysbiosis, you have an increased risk for atherosclerosis, increased coronary artery disease, increased stroke. And here's a study showing nitrate attenuated the endothelial dysfunction and atherosclerosis. So nitrate to nitrite, increasing nitric oxide, down-regulating NADPH oxidase, decreasing superoxide, decreasing vascular oxidative stress and endothelial dysfunction, and decreasing atherosclerosis. Here's a study showing that supporting the nitrate to nitric oxide pathway modulates the mitochondria, downregulates NADPH oxidase, and is effective for diabetes. So nitrate reverses metabolic syndrome, lowers BP, restores glucose insulin homeostasis, reduces fat accumulation. So there's protective effects of nitrate supplementation in obesity, MED-S, and type 2 diabetes. And this is a pretty diagram from that study showing nitrate to nitrite to nitric oxide in vivo downregulates blood pressure, body weight, fat, increases insulin sensitivity, increases glucose uptake, decreases endothelial dysfunction, decreases lipid accumulation, increases fatty acid oxidation, decreases dyslipidemia, decreasing fasting glucose, and decreasing hemoglobin A1C. And there's all these other processes that they've shown, like in the test, nitric oxide and healthy cognition. So high blood pressure is a risk factor for cognitive decline and dementia. 50% of the people and of adults in the United States have high blood pressure. And this occurs decades prior to the onset of dementia. Even though our brain only is about 2% of our body mass, it consumes 25% of our body's requirement for oxygen. The brain it should be producing at least 20 times more nitric oxide than the entire vasculature. That microcirculation in the brain is so critical for cognition. When we impair the blood flow to the brain, you can increase neurodegenerative diseases. The nitric oxide in the hypothalamus and the cerebral cortex, this is where our learning process and memory formation happens. It's a neuromodulator, increases synaptic plasticity, increases BDNF, increases neurogenesis, increases mitochondrial function and biogenesis. So remember that hemoglobin has to have nitric oxide attached to it in order to deliver oxygen to the cells. Without adequate nitric oxide, oxygen delivery is impaired. When we're hypoxic, oxygen deficient, we have decreased ATP production, decreased energy, the mitochondria become uncoupled, and superoxide production increases. So cytochrome oxidase in the electron transport chain can morph into a nitrite reductase enzyme to slow down that oxygen consumption, increase nitric oxide production, improve microcirculation in order to deliver that oxygen to the cells. Because cells can't be more than 2 cells away from a functioning microcapillary. So they need to be constantly fed. So here's a study showing high nitrate diet increases brain perfusion in an older adult. So nitrate is beneficial for compensating for endothelial dysfunction. It increased cerebral blood flow within the subcortical and deep white matter of the frontal lobes that is involved with executive functioning. And here's a paper that data mined insurance records. And out of 7.23 million people, sildenafil, aka Viagra, was associated with a 69% reduced risk of Alzheimer's. They saw increased neurite growth, decreased tau expression. But remember, these PDE5 inhibitors only prolong the effect of nitric oxide. You must have adequate nitric oxide in order for them to work. In Alzheimer's, you see impaired neurotransmission, increased oxidative stress, reduced cerebral blood flow, and neuroinflammation. And our hormone balance is modulated by nitric oxide. So the hypothalamus requires nitric oxide in order to make its LHRH, or gonadotropin-releasing hormone. And then this goes down to the pituitary to make your FSH and LH, which go down to your ovaries and testes to make your sex steroids. And the estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone actually support eNOS function to make nitric oxide. So this is a good circle. Hormones need nitric oxide, and then these hormones support nitric oxide. However, if you look at this, you can see that there's two hormones here that interfere with the production of nitric oxide, like prolactin and glucocorticoids. The NOS pathway is impaired in diabetes. Remember that NOS pathway is really sensitive. It's pH dependent. And when we have diabetes or any kind of chronic issue, it usually puts us into a more acidic state. The NOS enzyme requires oxygen. The NOS enzyme requires all of those essential cofactors and nutrients. And diabetes increases ADMA, which inhibits and downregulates NOS. And you see rampant oxidative stress in diabetes. Remember that oxidative stress uncouples that NOS. In insulin resistance, you've got oxidative stress, uncoupled NOS, loss of endothelial function, increased adhesion molecule formation, your VCAMs, your ICAMs. That GLUT4 receptor requires adequate nitric oxide in order to translocate and bring glucose into the cell. Hemoglobin A1C binds tightly with nitric oxide, making nitric oxide not bioavailable. So the higher the hemoglobin A1C, the less nitric oxide available. And in diabetes and insulin resistance, it's the cardiovascular complications that get people. PCOS, you see decreased Treg cells. And these Treg cells modulate the immune response and the autoimmune reaction. You see increased ADMA, endothelial dysfunction. All of these are modulated by nitric oxide. This study showed oxidative stress and cardiovascular complications in PCOS. See, increased oxidative stress increases cardiovascular complications. And allopathic answer to PCOS is birth control pills. Except birth control pills uncouple that NOS enzyme, increasing oxidative stress, decreasing nitric oxide production. That's why they don't want women over the age of 35, and especially smokers, taking birth control pills because of the cardiovascular complications. Here's a study using nitrite to increase AMPK activation, inhibiting NADPH oxidase, and preventing non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which has just now been renamed metabolic fatty liver disease. So there's a positive correlation between lipid accumulation and upregulated NADPH oxidase. Nitrate to nitrite to nitric oxide downregulates that NADPH oxidase production, decreasing superoxide and oxidative stress. And we're stimulating AMPK, which is the master regulator of cellular metabolism and energy homeostasis. So dietary nitrate can be useful in prevention and treatment of type 2 diabetes and its complications, such as non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Nitric oxide affects all stages of sexual function, the deficiency, sexual dysfunction. So we see increased sexual dysfunction with age. With age, we see decreased BH4 production, uncoupled NOS, diabetes. They develop erectile dysfunction 10 to 15 years earlier. We see increased arginase, which downregulates nitric oxide production. This takes arginine down another pathway. You see increased ADMA, which is connected to all-cause mortality. Alcohol increases acetaldehyde, which increases oxidative stress. Smoking increases oxidative stress. So we see impairment of the NOS pathway. And then if we've got oral dysbiosis, we're seeing impairment of the nitrate to nitrite to nitric oxide path. ED is ED. Erectile dysfunction is endothelial dysfunction. And remember, those PDE5 inhibitors only prolong the action of nitric oxide. They do not cause erection. You need adequate nitric oxide in order for the PDE5 inhibitors to work. They're not effective in about 50% of the men treated because they're nitric oxide deficient to begin with. And I want to caution on the use of aromatase inhibitors, your anastrozole, your letrozole. You see a lot of these in the compounded testosterone replacement creams, and your DHT blockers and your 5-alpha reductase inhibitors, the hair loss, the BPH, because both of these decrease production of nitric oxide, increase erectile dysfunction, and cardiovascular complications. Nitric oxide modulates all aspects of the female sexual response. It's a potent vasodilator. It's a non-adrenergic, non-cholinergic neurotransmitter to help relax smooth muscles, increase blood flow and response in order to be able to feel down there. Increased blood flow means better orgasms. So neurotransmitter, which modulates the release of oxytocin, and your LHRH, which govern your sexual behavior. Oxytocin, our love cuddle hormone, increases nitric oxide, and orgasms increase oxytocin. Nitric oxide is involved in creation of long-term memory. And studies show that memory and libido are closely connected, especially in the female. Nitric oxide modulates lubrication. So as women, if we can't respond, if we can't feel, and we're not lubricating, do you think we really even think about sex much? Probably not. So I want you to remember that SSRIs inhibit NOS, decreasing nitric oxide, which blocks arousal in both men and women. They cause sexual dysfunction. So this leads to problems with desire, arousal, orgasm, and even ejaculation in men. Our adrenals require adequate nitric oxide in order to function effectively. And glucocorticoid production increases in the absence of nitric oxide. It is a stress response. Cortisol, or hormone that naturally increases with age, it inhibits both iNOS. That's why when we're stressed, we get sick easier. And it inhibits eNOS. That's why when we're stressed, we have more cardiovascular complications, more hypertension, more MIs, more strokes. Cortisol increases reactive oxygen species. It decreases synthesis of BH4. Remember, BH4 keeps NOS coupled. Decreases transport of arginine, increases blood glucose, increases hemoglobin A1C. All of these decrease the production of or make nitric oxide not bioavailable. The latest WHO data say 1 in 6 women have trouble getting pregnant and are staying pregnant. Oxidative stress is the primary cause of infertility in male and females. Nitric oxide affects all stages and functions of reproduction in both males and females. Nitric oxide donors may be useful for promoting fertility and extending fertility. And nitric oxide inhibitors have been shown to be useful for contraception. Many key infertility drivers have nitric oxide deficient at their base. You've got cardiovascular concerns with improper blood flow, metabolic and blood glucose insulin issues, PCOS, intestinal health issues, immune and autoimmune issues, mitochondrial health issues, EMF, and stress. So this is a really pretty diagram. I liked it. It showed how nitric oxide affects all stages of male and female reproduction, from even getting the erection, all the way through to even delivery and removing the placenta. So I will be having a good webinar coming up, just really diving into nitric oxide and fertility. EMF. We're swimming in the sea of EMF. EMF activates NADPH oxidase, increasing that superoxide, increasing oxidative stress, uncouples NOS, uncouples the mitochondrial electron transport chain, increases activity of myeloperoxidase, stimulates xanthine oxidase, increasing superoxide, stimulates the Fenton reaction, increases your hydroxyl free radical, your Fe3+, and increases intracellular influx of calcium, which stimulates NADPH oxidase even more. So nitric oxide inhibits that voltage-gated calcium channel influx of calcium. It helps recouple the mitochondria, which blunts that mitochondrial calcium overload without undermining ATP synthesis. So supporting that nitrate to nitrite to nitric oxide pathway addresses every single one of these factors to decrease oxidative stress. EMF is classified as an immunosuppressant. It downregulates the production of nitric oxide. And remember, we need that nitric oxide as a defense against pathogens. It alters the gut-brain immune axis, destroys the blood-brain barrier, destroys those tight junction proteins. So it's destroying the gut too, and most of our immune response is in the gut. When you've got increased calcium influx, you significantly increase the cytokine storms. It increases hemoglobin A1C and type 2 diabetes. It increases cardiovascular disease. And they've known this about EMF since the 60s. However, all of this information really gets buried. Our circadian rhythm is nitric oxide modulated. When we have impaired nitric oxide production, we see a phase shift of the circadian clock and sleep disturbances. The nNOS production of nitric oxide in the brain signals sleep and sleep patterns. REM sleep is nitric oxide mediated. Obstructive sleep apnea is a hypoxic nitric oxide deficient state. And supporting the nitrate to nitrite to nitric oxide pathway will downregulate NADPH oxidase, decreasing oxidative stress, recoupling the NOS, decreasing ADMA. Nitric oxide is involved in anxiety and depression. In anxiety and depression, we see low levels of BDNF. And nitric oxide is the essential mediator of the neuroprotective actions of BDNF. Promotes neuronal survival. It stimulates neurogenesis, enhances learning and memory, plays a role in synaptic plasticity, which positively influences mood, increases GABA in the brain, our inhibitory neurotransmitter. So nitrates increase the production of BH4, which not only helps that NOS enzyme be coupled, BH4 is the essential cofactor making your serotonin, melatonin, dopamine, norepinephrine, epinephrine. Here's a study showing nitrate and exercise performance. You will increase exercise efficiency, increase performance, and fatigue resistance. In fact, this probably like the beetroot explosion started in the 2012 Olympics. All these athletes were improving their performance with the beetroot by increasing their nitric oxide. So supporting the nitrate to nitrite to nitric oxide pathway during inflammation, you're going to block the cytokine storm, downregulate these inflammatory cytokines, your NLRP3, interleukin-1B, interleukin-6, interleukin-18, decreasing mast cell degranulation and the release of histamine, decreasing myeloperoxidase activity, stopping the hypoxic reperfusion injury, limiting lipid peroxidation, decreasing interleukin-17, which decreases inflammation in the gut. You're helping to rebalance T cells, helping to decrease the pro-inflammatory Th1 and Th17, increasing those Treg cells, which maintain homeostasis, self-tolerance, decreasing the autoimmune reaction. So you're restoring the oxygen, nutrient, and glucose delivery, and just important, the cellular waste removal. Stem cells are how our body heals. And nitric oxide is essential for viability, differentiation, proliferation, migration. So nitric oxide is essential for these stem cells, these non-differentiated cells, to go where they need to go and do what they need to do. Repair of damaged cells is essential to healthy longevity. Hyperbarics work by increasing nitric oxide, which stimulate the release of stem cells. So we're in this perfect storm for low nitric oxide. Age, especially over the age of 40, or anybody with a chronic issue. Physical inactivity, the SAD diet, antibiotics, the azole antifungals, SSRI antidepressants, birth control pills, NSAIDs. PPIs interfere with the production of nitric oxide through both pathways. I remember when PPIs were first put on the market, insurance only paid for a 6-week supply. And now they're over the counter and people have been taking them for decades. Achlorhydria, antiseptic mouthwash, fluoride whitening toothpaste. These things can interfere with your oral microbiome, which interferes with that nitrate to nitrite conversion. Glyphosate, not only depleting your BH4, glyphosate disturbs your microbiome. Pollution, EMF, stress. So nitric oxide production naturally decreases with age, about 50% by the time we're 40, only 15% by the time we're 60, through that eNOS pathway. However, we can supplement. We can supplement either with a nitrate supplement or with foods. So 300 to 400 milligrams of nitrate has been shown that it's needed for physiological changes. We are a nitrate deficient population. So supporting the nitrate to nitrite to nitric oxide pathway not only increases nitric oxide directly, it helps recouple NOS, increasing nitric oxide through that pathway, decreasing superoxide production, decreasing oxidative stress. Oxidative stress and inflammation is at the base of all chronic issues. So I consult to Berkeley Life. I'm the executive director of their scientific advisory board, and Berkeley Life has a nitric oxide foundation. This is a nitrate-based product. 2 capsules will give you the physiological dose of nitrate needed. 2 capsules is approximately equal to 5 ounces of spinach or 7 ounces of beets. This is a clean label product. There are no toxic binders or fillers. There's no magnesium stearate, no silicon dioxide, no calcium phosphate. Every ingredient has beneficial physiological actions. The saliva test strip tests the nitrite concentration of your saliva. So you take a couple you can take a couple capsules, about an hour and a half later, test your saliva. So you will check your ability to reduce that nitrate to nitrite. and you can see where you come up. So you can use this strip too if you want to just do it with veggies. So arugula has the highest nitrate concentration without any kind of oxalate issue. But there's spinach, bok choy, butter lettuce, celery, beets. All of these can be used to get to bring your level up and stabilize it. So with Berkeley Life, they can fully train you. They've got a program where you can get a code and your patients can use that code and order directly, and they'll be shipped directly, and then you will get your percentage. So they'll provide free marketing materials, email and social media content. So they're very responsive. So here's a QR code. Everybody listening can get 10% off their order. So check this out. And now I would like to open up for questions. And thank you, everybody, for hanging with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Beth. That was fantastic. Yeah, everybody be sure to check out Berkeley Life, scan the QR code to get a discount. And during this presentation, I did check, and you can get access to Berkeley Life on full scripts. And is there anywhere else that Berkeley Life is available?
Emerson.
Perfect.
I forgot, but they can tell you.
Yeah, amazing. Get healthy. There we go. Rachel.
Yeah, get healthy. Yeah.
Get healthy. There we go. Rachel hopping in the chat. Awesome. Yeah. We had so many questions that came through. So we'll just start it off just at the very top. And again, if you have any questions, Beth is going to stick around for as long as we can to get through as many questions as possible, but jumping right into it. And also thank you again, Beth. That's fantastic. Is there something needed to take nitric oxide to be more bioavailable when taking it, or simply taking it enough to combat the spike protein?
You need to optimize your nitric oxide. So use those strips, get to the threshold or let's see, where is it? Get to the threshold or target level. So you can do that either with the capsules, because I like a couple capsules in the morning and then high nitrate veggies at lunch and at dinner. But it's imperative nowadays. Imperative.
Yeah, I love it. I just purchased the capsules myself, so I'm excited to try those.
Yeah.
Are there any dosing adjustments or interactions to be aware of when using nitric oxide?
If somebody's under tremendous oxidative stress, they may need more than 2 capsules a day. You can do it with vegetables, but just use the strips to make sure that you get your levels up.
Yeah.
But I'm somebody with a lot of oxidative stress, and I use 2 capsules twice a day.
Perfect.
Question?
Oh, yeah. I actually just deleted it. Are there any dosing adjustment interactions?
Oh, the only caution that I would, like if somebody's on blood pressure medications, the Berkeley Life with magnesium is actually how I get people off the blood pressure medications, but have them check their blood pressure regularly, because you will need to decrease it, because most of those blood pressure medications those ACE and ARBs work on that RAS cycle, and nitric oxide downregulates that RAS cycle. So if somebody's on like Coumadin, it's not contraindicated. However, you can do a pro time, do a couple capsules every single day, and do it every single day. And after a month, redo your pro time, because you might need to decrease the Coumadin a little bit, because of nitric oxide decreases platelet activation and aggregation. However, it's not a contraindication when you're on Coumadin. You just have to do the same thing every day so that your levels can be checked.
Right. Does taking nitric oxide supplements help inhibit the uncoupling of NOS?
Yes. Nitrate increases the production of BH4. And BH4 is what keeps NOS coupled.
Makes sense. Are nitrates from cured deli meats an unhealthy source of nitrates?
No, they're not. However, there may be other things within these deli meats that might not be so beneficial for us.
Mhm.
However, we get most of our nitrates through our vegetables,
Yep.
not through these deli meats. And in fact, when you look at these deli meats and they say no nitrates added, they use celery salt, which is really high in nitrates. And in fact, if you analyze these that have no nitrates added, they actually have more nitrates included than if they would have added them. However, the studies show that as long as you've got an antioxidant added, you will not make nitrosamines. So they found this out in the early 70s. And so actually all those deli meats have an antioxidant included. And in Berkeley, there's a vitamin C, an antioxidant. So this was something they saw in a test tube. It was not in real life. So that's pretty much been debunked.
Interesting. What are your thoughts on natural nitrates from celery and beets?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Just, use the strips to make sure that you're eating enough of them. The DASH diet, dietary approaches to stop hypertension. This is used as medicine to treat cardiovascular disease. And it's got between 1,000 and 1,500 milligrams of nitrates per day. And that's how it's treating those cardiovascular disease. So that would be like taking 2 caps of Berkeley like 4 to 5 times a day. And we're not doing it. So I'm not afraid of ODing on the nitrates.
That's good news. Breathwork increases nitric oxide naturally. Are there non-natural nitrite/nitrate supplementation that you would recommend?
Yes, breath work and all of these like photobiomodulation and all of these things will increase nitric oxide. However, there's only 2 ways to make nitric oxide, either through the NOS enzyme or the nitrate to nitrite to nitric oxide pathway. So you either have to have functioning NOS or good nitrate stores to get the optimum results from these processes. So by upping your nitrates, you will help your body like make more nitric oxide through breath work, through the photobiomodulation, through all of these other processes.
Are there any contraindications to using nitrate?
Not that I know of. If we don't have good nitric oxide, we don't have good circulation and microcirculation. The microcirculation, this is where all the action happens. This is where the delivery of the oxygen, glucose, nutrients happen and the clearing away of the debris. And if that microcirculation isn't open, then you've got like tissue will die.
What are the comparative benefits and limitations of supplemental products which utilize nitrate versus nitrite?
Well, nitrite has a half-life of 20 minutes to an hour. Nitrate has a half-life of 6 to 8 hours. So, nitrate will hang around longer. Plus, nitrate has beneficial actions that nitrite does not, like nitrate in the gut, protecting those tight junction proteins. Nitrate protecting microbiomes everywhere, like from your gut to the oral microbiome, your skin, urinary tract, brain. Nitrate has properties that nitrite does not. However, if you need like immediate nitrite, then use the nitrite products.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And folks, I know we're at the hour mark. We're going to keep going with Beth. She's gracious enough to spend some extra time with us. But if you do have to leave early, no worries, or rather on time. You will get a copy of the recording within the next few days here. So with that, let's keep on going here. Do you recommend nitric oxide for those with lower blood pressure?
I had lower blood pressure for a few years, and doing the nitrate, doing the Berkeley or eating my big salads did not decrease my blood pressure any more than what it already was. So it's more of like a homeostatic kind of balance. But, check. Everybody is different.
Yep, absolutely. That's why we say test, don't guess.
Yeah.
Does vitamin C need to be consumed at the same time as the nitric oxide supplement in order to protect against nitrosamine production?
Well, vitamin C is in those it's in the vegetables, but it's also in the broccoli. But I would consume it at the same time.
And just side note, folks, I see a lot of questions coming into the chat. Please use the Q&A button. That's what we're going through to ask the questions to Beth. So jumping right in, do you have any recommendations for support, metabolic and diabetic support health? Let me just go ahead. So what are the doses / any recommendations that were used to support metabolic diabetic health, as well as the recurrent infections caused by biofilms?
I don't know the exact dosage they used on that. However, I have seen, decreased fasting blood glucoses with 2 capsules in the morning and then high nitrate veggies at lunch and dinner to keep those levels up. I don't know the exact dosage they use for the biofilms.
Perfect. And I know, Beth, that you gave it a plug earlier, but absolutely be sure to check out Berkeley Life and some of the educational materials that they have access to there too. Would nitric oxide or nitrate supplementation help with obstructive sleep apnea?
Yes. Yes, because that obstructive sleep apnea is connected to cardiovascular disease, diabetes. I mean, you name it, it's connected. But it's because it's nitric oxide deficient state. You're not being able to oxygenate your tissues. And nitric oxide is essential to oxygenate.
Yes.
Not just about your oxygen. You've got to have that nitric oxide in order to utilize that oxygen.
Who shouldn't take nitric oxide? This is in regards to a potential cancer patient.
Yeah, we've got a practitioner whose main focus is cancer patients, and he's got almost all of his patients on this. So I haven't dug into this particular realm yet. So I just know that he uses this on most of his patients.
Right. When would you use citrulline?
I don't. So citrulline is better than arginine because the cell actually takes up citrulline and makes its own arginine to feed into the NOS. However, if that NOS is dysfunctional or uncoupled, you're still not going to be able to make it work.
Yeah.
So I don't use citrulline or arginine.
Yeah.
And in fact, arginine has all these other pathways it can go down. It's not just your NOS enzyme. It can increase ammonia, increase urea, increase ADMA. And ADMA is not something we want to increase. It's connected to all-cause mortality.
Do you feel that it's only smoking that adds to the dysfunction, or is it smokeless tobacco as well?
It's the ingredients that they have in like this smokeless tobacco. Okay. And nicotine actually has a lot of beneficial actions, but it's all these chemicals and stuff that they put with it that are not good.
Yes, absolutely. Do you recommend routinely giving nitric oxide to diabetics, women with PCOS, and women on birth control pills?
It's essential.
Yeah.
Essential. Yes.
What is BH4?
Tetrahydrobiopterin. Tetrahydrobiopterin, BH4, it is produced through the methylation cycle. And it's that essential cofactor that keeps NOS coupled, but it's also an essential cofactor in making your neurotransmitters. So it's pretty critical.
Another clarification question here is, what is RF EMF?
radio frequency, electromagnetic frequencies.
There we go.
So very toxic.
Can you have too much nitric oxide? They're thinking supplementation support.
Like I said, the DASH diet, you've got 1,000 to 1,500 milligrams per day. That's 2 capsules, 4 to 5 times a day. So usually the most that I have people on are 2 capsules twice a day, unless they're post-viral or post-jab. And then I'll put them on 2 capsules 3 times a day for a couple of weeks.
Right. And I know we already plugged this, but what was that source to find more information about nitric oxide dosing?
What do you mean?
More information about nitric oxide with Berkeley Life.
Oh, okay.
There we go. Let's scan that.
Also on YouTube, on the Berkeley Life page, I have all sorts of webinars. I go deep into nitric oxide in sexual health, nitric oxide in mental health, nitric oxide in immune health, nitric oxide in EMI. I mean, I started talking about how the spike protein was depleting nitric oxide back in 2020 when this first started. And then a year later, we knew more. And so I dove into it even more. And I've got a webinar coming up, nitric oxide in fertility and nitric oxide in autoimmune health. So those are coming up soon.
Love it. And Rachel from the Berkeley Life just plugged in the chat, register as a provider on their website for free. And they have a full digital resource library as well, including patient assets. So absolutely be sure to check that out. What are your thoughts on the nitric oxide dump exercise?
It's good. No, it's good. However, once again, you must have coupled functional NOS or good nitrate stores, because there's only 2 ways to make nitric oxide. That's it. So just make sure your nitrite stores are good, because that will help keep that NOS coupled too.
So this practitioner works in psychiatry and they want more information on nitric oxide benefits to people with mental illness. Would that similar resources that you mentioned previously have any information regarding that?
I've got a webinar on nitric oxide and mental health. So that might help. Nitric oxide and hormones too is a good one.
I love it.
Because hormones go into mental health too.
Absolutely, they do. Do you recommend using nitric oxide product for all autoimmune patients? Any side effects to be watchful for?
Yes. Yeah. I just spoke at A4M and it was on nitric oxide and autoimmune. Because autoimmune, you've got tremendous oxidative stress. And when you've got oxidative stress, that uncouples that NOS. And so we've got to keep that circulation and microcirculation open. Plus, in autoimmune, look at Raynaud's is highly connected with autoimmune issues. And Raynaud's, is little spasms of your extremity blood vessels. Yeah. Nitric oxide deficiency.
Are you going to be in Las Vegas this year for A4M?
Yes.
You'll have to stop by our booth. We'll get you a Rubenot.
Oh, good.
So you'll have to stop by. You can't miss us. We'll be in space astronaut costumes. How often or how long can a patient take nitric oxide for? Is this something that you want to supplement until levels get back to normal and get them off? How often should you monitor it?
You want good circulation and microcirculation forever. Mm-hmm. So whether you do it with a supplement or you do it with foods, forever. Because it's when that nitric oxide deficiency starts happening. Like cardiovascular disease is still the #1 killer in the United States. That's nitric oxide deficiency. So you want to keep that level up. And, I don't care how you do it, just do it.
Yeah. Can you address nitric oxide and nose breathing?
Well, once again, you're increasing nitric oxide. However, you've got to have coupled NOS or good nitrite stores. Same with when you're out in the sun. One of the reasons I think it feels so good when you're out in the sun, when you just, take it all in, is because that sunlight is actually increasing nitric oxide.
Yeah. Is there a comprehensive list of foods that are beneficial for supporting oxide levels?
Yeah, the Berkeley people can give it to you,
Or
but arugula has the highest. Butter lettuce, spinach, bok choy, celery, beets. But Berkeley has an excellent page where they can give you that shows these foods.
perfect. Can a transplant patient use this, or would we be afraid that this would stimulate immune response too much?
It doesn't stimulate. Okay. I mean, it's your protection against your virus, bacteria, fungi, pathogens, but it decreases the autoimmune response. But if you want to improve your circulation and microcirculation, which is actually what you want to be doing, I'd get them on it.
Yeah.
Or, I don't care how, even if it's food, just, optimize that nitric oxide, optimize that microcirculation.
Is
These cells.
is this supplement safe for children?
We have some kids on it, and usually I would, start with one capsule. You can put it in a smoothie. We've got some autistic kids that are on it when they've opened up a capsule and just put it in their mouth, and it's not bad.
Yeah. What about folks with Hashimoto's?
Yes. Okay. That's partly, and see, yeah, they need that. So in my nitric oxide hormones, I think I talk about thyroid issues and deficiency of nitric oxide. So there's an NADPH oxidase enzyme in the thyroid called duox-1 and duox-2. So they're making superoxide, but you've got to have the exact right amount to make your TPO enzymes work right. So, but when they get upregulated, like I showed you that slide that showed all those things that upregulate NADPH oxidase, which duox-1 and duox-2 in the thyroid is an NADPH oxidase. So you're making too much of the superoxide. So using the nitrate actually will help with this autoimmune thyroiditis.
I love it. And then, just for the sake of time, this will be the last one. Otherwise, we might be here till about 2 p.m. Pacific. Folks, thank you so much for all the questions. How can someone get off statin/blood pressure medications using nitric oxide?
Okay. Pretty easily. So statins, I'm not a fan of at all. And especially anybody over the age of 65, they've shown that it increases dementia. And just recently, there's all these studies showing that statins increase diabetes. So statins, I don't have a problem getting somebody just off of statins. Just take them off. With blood pressure medications, you'll need to do it slower. So start on the Berkeley, have somebody, and have them on their regular blood pressure med, have them take their blood pressure regularly and start decreasing slowly off the blood pressure meds. But with the Berkeley and magnesium, I've been able to get everybody off of blood pressure meds.
I love it. Beth, this has been such an insightful topic. I appreciate you so much for spending the afternoon with us. This has been fantastic. Thank not only you, but of course the Berkeley Life team. This has been amazing. You can see all the love coming in through the chat. There's a number of questions. Just thanking you for your time today.
Right.
And I know that we weren't able to get to everybody's questions, but I will send a copy of the questions over to the Berkeley Life team.
Yeah, send them over to me and I'll be glad to help out.
Awesome. Well, do you have any final thoughts for the folks who are sticking around?
Yeah. So optimizing your nitric oxide, it's the base of all healing. So I'm not saying that if you optimize your nitric oxide, that's the only thing you can do. However, it needs to be the base of everything you do. So if your circulation and microcirculation is impaired, it doesn't really matter what else you're giving to somebody. It's not going to get to where you need to go, where it needs to go. So do this, optimize your circulation and microcirculation as the base, and then see what else you need. And you might be able to get away with less of other things because it's getting where it needs to go.
Amazing. Thank you so much again, Beth. What we're going to do is we're going to transition just really quickly. I'm going to go through a demonstration of Rupa Health and show you how you can order some functional medicine lab testing that will work hand in hand with these supplements that we're talking about today. So I'm going to steal this screen. And Beth, you're welcome to stick around or you.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all. If you're sticking around, if you're able to just join us for another, 5-10 minutes, I want to talk to you a little bit about Rupa Health and show you what we do and why we host these webinars on a weekly basis with our partners, not only just in the supplement realm, but also in the functional medicine lab testing realm. And so who we are is we're Rupa Health. We're a functional medicine lab testing platform. We make it easier for you to order all of your testing in one place. So instead of having to have separate accounts to order your stool test, your hair test, your blood test, your urine test, you have one account with Rupa and you have access to over 30 different labs and over 3,000 different tests all in place. Not only is an aggregation for all your testing, but also we do, as you can see, education as well. So we're bringing in partners from not only our labs, but also within the functional medicine landscape to help educate you on basically different opportunities that are accessible to you. And so with that, this is my dashboard just to show you really how simple it is to start an order. Hopping up here where it says start an order, all I need is my patient's first name, last name, and email address. And I forgot to mention, Group is completely free to sign up for. So if you're a practitioner, you can sign up for free and get access to all of this in one place. This is my order screen, and where within the screen, I can create custom bundles, which are sets of tests from a combination of any lab that I want to order from. Down below, I can create a favorites list. And so if there's specific tests that I find myself ordering more often than others, I can just go ahead and add a heart next to it. It'll appear at the top here. And so when I want to order that Dutch test and the GI map from Diagnostic Solutions in Dutch, and maybe I want to throw in some basic blood lab testing, I have access to that here too. And if that's it, 2 clicks and I click send to patient, and that's it. We'll go ahead and reach out to the patient and handle billing. We'll handle support with the patient. We'll ship the kits directly to the patient. Really what our goal here is to offload a lot of the heavy lifting that can oftentimes be required with these tests. That can be within the patient experience side of things, handling all the support, which we'll do, handling the billing. These tests can be really expensive. And as you can see, these tests can cost hundreds of dollars. And so what we're doing is providing an opportunity for your patients to get access to these tests at the practitioner price. We're always going to charge your patients the lower price, as well as offer multiple different payment solutions. So your patients can not only pay with credit or debit, but they can also pay with HSA, they can pay with FSA, and we can even set up a 3-month interest-free payment plan with your patients to help pay for the cost of the tests. And if your patient wants to do insurance, you can add ICD-10 codes to an order and we'll automatically create a super bill for your patient so they can submit that to their insurance for potential reimbursement. You have the option of either paying for the tests yourself, but 80% of our practitioners prefer us to just handle billing with the patient for those reasons I stated below or previously, right? We offer that same price and offer multiple different payment solutions. But again, you do have the option of paying for the test yourself. We, of course, have to make our money somehow, right? And like I mentioned before, Roop is free to sign up for. The way that we generate our revenue is simple. There's a flat 7% processing and ordering fee on each order, and that's paid for by whoever pays for the tests. So I'll do a little zoom in here. So as you can see, the cost of this order itself is going to be $653. That includes that 7% processing and ordering fee, but we're still saving your patient well over $200 by working with Rupa. Now that 7% processing and ordering fee, that's paid for by whoever pays for the tests. So as I mentioned, 80% of our practitioners prefer us to just manage billing with the patient. If that's the case, the patient will also pay not only the cost of the tests, but also that 7%. What that means for you is Rupa will be free, right? There's no cost to sign up for Rupa. There's no minimum spend. There's no contractor signing. There's no subscription fee. That 7% is the primary way that we generate our revenues here at Rupa Health. And so if you're having us manage billing directly with the patients, then you'll never see a bill from Rupa, right? The only time you would ever pay anything is if you click this box here and decide to pay for the cost of the order yourself, in which case you can just bill the patient separately outside of our platform. You can have notes for the patient. You can add notes for us. And again, you can add those ICD-10 codes, in which case we'll automatically create a super bill for your patient so they can submit that to their insurance for that potential reimbursement. Now, the reason we don't accept insurance directly through our platform is, unfortunately, there's not a lot of clarity as to what's covered by insurance at this time, right? Not only just within functional medicine, I feel like maybe that's just like a general US insurance issue, but to provide a better overall patient experience instead of having us take their insurance and then having to send them a bill after the fact, we want to ensure that the patient knows what they're getting into and, we're going to put them in the best position possible to get that potential reimbursement. And so that's why we offer the ICD-10 codes as well as the super bills. Now, do have a full catalog down below where you're able to search for testing. You can browse by category, you can browse by lab company, and you can even search by biomarker. So you can find very specific tests. And if I want to click into the details of any of these tests, it will give me all the information that I'm looking for, not only just a description, but turnaround times, shipping times, patient collection instructions, sample reports, as well as biomarkers. So you can see everything that we're looking for here. A really big limitation within at least these 3 states previously, New York, New Jersey, and Rhode Island, has been the fact that tests aren't offered there. Or at least they're difficult to get access to there. And so what we can do is we can actually offer certain tests on our platform in those states. So if you work in New York, New Jersey, or Rhode Island, or work with patients within those states, absolutely reach out to me and I'd be more than happy to talk to you about the offerings that we have within those states. Now, once you press send to that order, like I said, we will take care of everything with the patients. We'll send the kits to the patients. We'll handle billing. We'll handle support. We'll handle specimen issues. And if you're offering a test that requires a blood draw, we'll even help coordinate that phlebotomy with your patient by sending over options based on the lab that they're working with. And if they need additional options, maybe they want a mobile phlebotomist to come to their house to draw their blood, they can reach out to us and our team, and we will help facilitate sending over a list of options within a 25-mile radius of their zip code. So the goal here is you come to Rupa, order your tests. We take care of everything on the in-between with your patients. You get the results in, and what that looks like is you just hop right back into your dashboard here, and you can track all of your results straight away within this main dashboard. You can track the progress and status of each of your tests. So if I open up this test here, I can see that, for example, this test arrived at the lab and I'm expected for my results to come in on this certain date. I can see when the sample is received. When the results are received, I'll receive an email and I can just hop right in here. I can download the results. I can send the results to my patients. I can also schedule a clinical consultation. So this is really important because oftentimes practitioners may want some assistance or have some questions regarding the test that they're ordering. And so generally you'll go to the lab that you order the test from. You still have access to that lab. You'll schedule time with the clinician from the lab that you order the test from, and you'll do that right within our platform here. Additionally, you can even create a result summary. A result summary is a patient-facing PDF that gives them a more digestible view of their tests. These tests can be very complex and sometimes 20, 30 pages long. No normal person without education will understand what that all means. And so what we're doing here is providing you the ability to create a digestible and create visualizations around certain biomarkers that are outstanding and make it more digestible for your patients so they can understand what's happening within the lab tests. So beyond just somewhere where you can come and order all your tests, like I said, we do a ton of education here. The one, of course, today with Beth and Berkeley Life, but we've been doing this for a couple years now. And so we have a whole library and suite of not only just live classes that we've done, you can see what we have coming up. You can see some of the boot camps that we do. So beyond just live classes and webinars, we also do boot camps. These are 6-week deep dives into specific tests that you join. This is a paid option, and you'll join, let's say, for example, PMS and the PCOS using the Dutch test with Dr. Carrie Jones. You join that, you pay for it, you get a test that you'll be able to run on yourself, and you'll be able to run through all of the results through the 6-week course, asking live questions to the practitioners throughout the way. We also have some cool tools like compare tests. So if you're interested in seeing, hey, what are all the hormone tests on Rupa Health? We have preset ones. You can also customize this, and this will give you a view of all the hormone tests on our platform, letting you know what tests are offered, how much do they cost, what are the turnaround times, all that basic information that you need to make sure that you're making the right decision on the test for you or your patients. So a lot of really important information that you can find here. Like I said, whole library available for you of all the previous tests that we've done. We have articles and magazines. We have a podcast. So again, beyond somewhere where you can just come and order all your tests for your patients, you can also come and learn about lab testing as well, which is, in my opinion, equally as important to your organization. And we're starting to roll out a lot more business-focused webinars as well on how to launch your practice, grow your practice, market your practice. So keep an eye out for those ones that are coming in the next few months here. We have lab shops. So if you want e-commerce on your website, we can do that as well. And not just for one size clinic, whether you're a small solo practitioner looking to save time, we could absolutely help out with that, right? If you're a solo practitioner, absolutely. We're going to save you a ton of time because traditionally you'll need to have an admin. But if you're a multi-location clinic or you're in a clinic with multiple practitioners, we can set up an account that will work the best for you. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my information on the screen here. And so if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. My name is Adrian Martinez. I'm the head of practitioner partnerships here at Rupa Health. And so if you do have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. More than happy to set up a demonstration to walk through Rupa in a more specific way that it would work for your practice. Or even if you have basic questions, feel free to give me a call, shoot me an email. I'm always available for that. But with that, y'all, I'm going to hop into the chat real quick and see if there was anything that came through for me or any questions. All right. Do we ship international? Great question. Unfortunately, right now, we do not ship internationally. We only ship within the US, and patients only can service patients within the US. I live in New Jersey. I would love to connect. Kristen, I would love to connect as well. I'm going to save your contact information. So let's absolutely connect. See if there's a question that came through. Can non-licensed practitioners use Rupa? Great question, Amanda. And the answer to that is yes. So we actually have a program called Physician Services. And so essentially what Physician Services is a program specifically for practitioners whose licenses may limit their ability to order testing or certifications. And what that does is you're able to create a Rupa account. And when you're ready to recommend testing for your patients, you would actually be partnered and paired with a licensed physician who would order those tests on behalf of your patients. So yes, Amanda, we actually do have a program for that. Go ahead and reach out to me if you can, and I would love to set up time to kind of walk through that and talk to you about the details there. But yeah, great question. We can do that. Can you help patient find a place for blood draw? Yes, we can, Jessica. Absolutely. We have a whole database internally, but let's say that maybe you're working with a patient and they're in an area that we might not have covered yet. You know, the US is pretty big. So understanding that we don't have every single physician or rather phlebotomist on our phlebotomy map, we'll absolutely make a search within their zip code. Can you create protocols to organize your labs? Would love to learn a little bit more about what you mean by that. But yeah, potentially. Where can I see the complete presentation, Lucero? We will go ahead and send you a copy of it. You can also access it on rupahealth.com within the next few days. Can we see a sample of a routine blood test report? Yeah, Gretchen, great question. So the blood test reports are actually going to be the exact same reports across the board for all of our tests that you would be getting from the lab. So we're not making any adjustments or making our own type of reporting. So here's a CMP. We'll hop in here, details. Let's see if we can go to CBC. Here is a sample report from a CBC from Vibrant America. So again, we're not making any adjustments to these reports. They are going to be the exact same reports that you'd be getting from the labs themselves. Yeah, Kristen, I'm going to reach out to you as well. But again, y'all, here's my contact information. Amanda, I'm actually not sure. I think Beth jumped off, but it sounds like maybe we want a nitric oxide and fertility webinar. We'll have to do that. What is the program you mentioned about connecting with a physician? Janet, it's called Physician Services. Yeah, April uses it all the time. I love it. Thank you, April. It is super simple. It's the exact same process that I showed you a moment ago. There is an additional fee when using Physician Services, so something to be aware of, but the goal here is just to make this testing more accessible. So do we recommend versus ideal ranges and flag when they're outside ideal range instead of range? Yeah, Gretchen, that's a great question. So we don't make any recommendations on our end. We're actually legally at this time not allowed to make any recommendations when it comes to interpretation of results. That's why we give you the opportunity to schedule a clinical consultation directly with the labs that you're ordering the tests from. It depends based on the lab, right? Some labs have different sample reports, that they're providing you with. And so while some might provide, specific ideal ranges, others might not. And so if you want to schedule time with one of the clinicians from the lab that you're ordering tests from, you do have the ability to do that through our platform as well. Missy, great question. So I am a CNS in Massachusetts, waiting on paperwork showing my LDN was awarded. Am I able to run labs in my state? Depends on what certifications that you have. Absolutely. So if you have, your certification as a CNS in Massachusetts, submit that, and more likely than not, we'll be able to get you approved for that physician services program. Go ahead and reach out directly to me as well, and I'm more than happy to kind of walk you through the program and make sure that you're put in touch with our team that will be able to either approve it or not approve of it. But let's connect a little bit more on that one, Missy. Again, my contact information is on the screen here, so feel free to reach out. Awesome. Thanks for joining, Amanda. Everyone, I think that's all the questions that we have here. I appreciate all the time. We do integrate with Gretchen. We do integrate with Better. No, we don't integrate with Better Health. Excuse me. Sorry. We integrate with Practice Better, not Better Health. We do integrate with a few EHRs. Better Health is not one of them, but you can see all of the EHRs that we do integrate with right within the settings tab here. So a few more on the way, including Serbo, which I'm very excited about. But just to show you the EHRs that we work with currently: Practice Better, Body Sight, Elation, Healthy, Calyx, ODX, Practice Q, Holistic Office. So those are all the EHRs that we work with currently. All right, y'all. Well, I appreciate the time so much. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. My name is Adrian. Come join us again for some amazing upcoming live classes and webinars that we host. Traditionally, they're on Wednesdays. We're actually going to have a couple 2 weeks, double weeks in the next month or two. So I'll be a busy guy, but there's going to be some amazing content, and I can't wait for you all to join us and see it. And if you can't make it, again, it's always going to be recorded and uploaded to our site. So again, I appreciate you all joining today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.